Welcome to this presentation. My name is Sara DiMichele and I am the Communications Director for ABL Employment. I've worked with the company for 15 years and it's been my great honor and pleasure to help many new Canadians entering the workforce get their resumes up to date and ready for the Canadian job market. So how do you know if your resume is indeed ready for the Canadian job search? I have 8 tips I'd like to share with you that I've seen very frequently over the years, used and abused, and so now I'd like to make sure that you have the benefit of this information as you go about creating your first Canadian resume. So number one, make sure that when you read through that job advertisement that you'd like to apply for, that you pick out those key words that are scattered throughout the job listing. Make sure that you've included those keywords in your resume. Number two, save the resume as a document or text file, not as a picture file. Even PDFs are not great for all resume screening software that employers may be using. It works as a kind of filter, and if it cannot read the resume because it's become a photo file, that immediately puts you at a disadvantage and your application will be sidelined. Number three, don't add any images or graphics. Again, related to number two, computer systems for these filtration software, they just don't know how to interpret the information on those graphics. Number four, make sure to mention the company names of your work history and volunteer history. Oftentimes employers, they are very familiar with who their competitors would be and companies who do similar work to them, and they're looking for people who have those skills, those transferable skills. So be sure to include those company names in your volunteer and work history. Number five, make sure that you're using a really clean, simple font like Arial or Helvetica. And this is the kind of font that computers can really easily interpret. So again, in order to make sure that you have the best chance of your resume being easily filtered and screened, you need to make sure that that is a font that it can read easily. Number six, don't include a section for hobbies or interests on your initial application, your initial resume that you submit. It's very valuable real estate that it takes up on your document, and we can leave that discussion for your interview. Let's use that space on the document for really important things that are job related at this time. Of course, it's important to try to keep your resume down to about a page long, and if you're including hobbies and interests, that really does take up the space. Number seven, don't use tables or special characters in your layout. Again, it's related back to the whole graphic and image problem. The filtering software just doesn't know what to do with those pictures. And lastly, if you go and check out the website indeed.ca and you look for the section called Job Category Trend, look for information and stats there for keywords and phrases that are used in the top job titles. This is really great information to include on your resume. Now, how can you Canadianize your international resume? Definitely do not include the following information: date of birth, place of birth, marital status, religion, ethnicity, nationality, or even a photo. For photos, unless you are applying to become a model, you definitely don't include a photo on a Canadian resume. But things to definitely include are things such as your local address, and if you're concerned about privacy, at least include the city and province, your email address, and your direct phone line, usually that's your cell phone number, and make sure to say whether you have the legal right to work in Canada. So that is a valid social insurance number. You don't need to include that number, but just a simple short statement saying you have the legal right to work in Canada. Now here's an example of a very typical international resume that we might see. As you can tell, there are a few big no-nos already represented here. So the picture, it's a very beautiful picture. It's a very lovely layout for a document, but it's got a lot of no-nos on it. It's got the date of birth, it's got the nationality, and it's got her marital status. So this is unfortunately a bad example for a Canadian resume. And lastly, here is a very good example. It's a very text-based document. The font is very easy to read. The filter systems will have no trouble at all interpreting the information here. It also includes the LinkedIn profile. So particularly if you're looking for administrative or professional positions, it's a very good idea to include your LinkedIn profile. And skills are very easily highlighted and prominent on the page here. So I would call this a very good example of a Canadian format for resumes. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you found the information useful. Feel free to check out the other webinars we've pre-recorded on our YouTube channel under our Skill Pass playlist. Take care.